Hey YouTube, Coppersan here. Today is the day of reckoning. Today is the day of truth and justice. Today I will be doing my official MapleStory review. I've been playing this game for over 18 years. I have over 5,000 hours spent in the game, don't judge me. I've trained every class to level 200 twice, have multiple level 250 plus characters and restarted on multiple accounts just for the fun of it. MapleStory is currently the most popular it has ever been, breaking records across multiple regions. Definitely not bad for a 20-year-old mushroom game. In May earlier this year I made a video to talk about the state of the game and promised to make a proper review, so let's go on a journey through the game together. There is a lot to talk about, but first a word from today's video sponsor, Opera GX. Is your current browser holding you back from maximizing your gains in your favorite MMO? Need something nice to look at while grinding? Opera GX offers endless customization so that you can personalize your browser as you see fit. If you don't want to customize everything yourself, download a mod like this anime mod. It adds a whole lot of personality to your browser with new sounds, colors and wallpapers. And if that ain't to your liking, you can add your own favorite animated wallpapers for even more personality. Or for example, this perfectly balanced wallpaper. There is plenty to choose from. Watching videos is also easier than ever with the pop-out feature, so you can keep watching your favorite show while checking out patch notes of your favorite game or the release schedule of the next One Piece episode. In Opera GX, you can easily check out the latest memes that one annoying friend sent you by connecting your socials, or check out my latest cat pics on my Instagram. Switching over to Opera GX is also super easy. You can import everything from your previous browser with just a few clicks. If you think, hey, that's pretty cool, there is a link in the video description and top comment that you can click on to get Opera GX today. It's completely free. Many thanks to them for sponsoring today's video. And now back to the review. Even though MapleStory is 20 years old already, the game has been getting updated a lot, with 2 big updates a year and many smaller updates usually every 6 weeks. MapleStory's art style is colorful and vibrant. Each area has their own unique look, feel and sound. Whether you're fighting slimes in the treetops, walking around a snowy field in Elinia, or in a temple, each area will feel unique and has a great soundtrack to accompany it. And the soundtrack in this game is probably the best out of any MMO, heck, out of any game. It's just really that good. MapleStory's world building through lore, on the other hand, that's a different story. With the game being this old and the story ever evolving, it's quite hard to get an easy grasp of what is actually going on. And while the developers have made efforts to fix the many plot holes the story has, the story still remains a weak point for MapleStory. Especially some of the earlier game forced starter area stories can be a big turnoff for some people. All these diverse areas are also the homes of the many classes that MapleStory has to offer. One of the game's strengths is its extremely diverse roster of classes. Want to be a classic assassin? No problem. Prefer to be a pop star? Sure. How about an edgy dragon princess who escaped an uprising and was raised on the streets? No problem. I think MapleStory does a great job of making every class feel unique, with each class having their own gimmicks and playstyle. For example, this class called Cain has a special grappling wire that makes you able to swing from platforms. The Shadower makes monsters drop additional mesos, the in-game currency that can be blown up in the monsters' faces. The Kaiser class transforms into a big dragon. There is something for everyone's taste. MapleStory has an interesting approach when it comes to class types. Yeah, there are supportive classes, tanky classes and damage dealers. Some are better at bossing, some are better at grinding. But with MapleStory being 2D and all, there isn't any aggro pooling or any really true support. Instead, fighting boss monsters is more about dodging attacks and attacking at the right time. Tanky and supportive classes usually provide defensive buffs, stat buffs to increase the damage of your party members, or shields to make it easier for the rest of your party to get off their damage. And due to the grindy nature of the game, each class can dish out plenty of damage. It's not the super traditional, very weak supportive or tanky classes. Sure, they are perhaps a little bit weaker than some of the other more damage orientated classes, but they can all hold their own. The class balance is therefore, in my opinion, the best it has ever been. Every class is justifiable. However, there are still some classes who outshine others due to them being easier to play. There is a bit of a burst meta when it comes to bossing, making some of the more DPM focused classes a bit less in demand, a bit less popular. And sometimes it kind of feels that some classes get a little bit more love from the developers than others. The same thing can be said for the class balance when it comes to grinding monsters, with some classes being able to grind very lazy while others have to put in more work. And you'll be grinding a lot in MapleStory. This is one of its biggest strengths and weaknesses. Out of all the grindy MMOs I've played, there is just something so satisfying about grinding in MapleStory. the fast-paced movement, colorful skills, it's mwah! It's a great game to pick up after a long day of work where you can just relax and still get some progress done. But on the other hand, if you really dislike grindy MMOs, you'll absolutely hate MapleStory. There is just so much to do and to grind for that it can feel very overwhelming. Most of the gameplay in MapleStory is done solo. Grinding in a party is no longer the meta and will make both you and your grinding partner progress slower. So it can be done, but it's just not efficient whatsoever. MapleStory isn't as play with others focused as it was in the past. There still is party content though, as mid and end game bosses are almost always exclusively done in parties, and there's daily party content in Monster Park Extreme at level 260. Most socializing is done through guilds and Discord though. There also are party quests that can be done in a party, but this content kinda fell off, and with most Maplers just trying to grind as fast and efficient as possible, this content is pretty much dead. You can still do it with your friends though, it's just that no one else really does it. And some events are done with other people through matchmaking. Your progress isn't really hindered by you not playing in a party. You can actually solo every boss if you want to, but especially for the higher level bosses, these are usually done in parties because no one wants to solo a boss for 30 minutes and get strong enough to actually get to that point. Another big topic is progression, and this is again both one of MapleStory's biggest strengths and also its biggest weakness. You either love it or you hate it, or probably a little bit of both. There are 20 years of content, revamps and systems waiting for a new player, which can make the game feel extremely overwhelming. The original MapleStory was built around your characters reaching the max of level 200, but as the game got older, the finish line kept getting moved and moved, new content kept getting introduced, the level cap kept being raised, and the early game leveling speed got sped up dramatically. Because new players are going through the early game so fast, it will almost always feel like you're missing out on important quests, training spots and systems, and the game does a very poor job in explaining the many mechanics it has and doesn't really guide you to the important stuff. I have to say though, it has gotten better than before thanks to the guide menu, but there is a reason why the most popular MapleStory videos are all guide videos. The entirety of 10 years of old school MapleStory content is squished into the first 6 hours of the game, and it can feel very overwhelming and a little bit rushed. The end game though, that's a different beast. Because the finish line keeps getting moved, there are always stats to improve and new levels to grind for. You cannot finish grinding in MapleStory. It is still actively releasing new endgame areas and systems as well, with the 6th job advancement releasing later this year. The 5th job and 6th job systems require Maplers to grind for hours to collect enough resources to upgrade their skills. Which is fun in a way, since you're always working towards something and you can have these small progression steps, but it's also a very long grind. And even though the game keeps pushing players to reach higher levels faster through events and balance changes, it is still a grind. Reaching the mid game is pretty fast these days, but the end game, whew, there's no end to that. One of my personal gripes with the end game is getting your end game gear. There are a whole bunch of accessories called pitched boss accessories. These items are rare drops from end game bosses, and rare is a bit of an understatement. For example, I've been bossing with my party for almost every week, defeating the hard lucid and hard willed bosses, and out of a year of bossing we've only seen one pitched item drop. The bosses that drop these items can only be defeated once a week, so if you're unlucky your end game progress can be super slow. All of MapleStory's gear upgrading is also based on chance, and one of these systems has a chance to blow up your gear. Some of the stats are saved in a trace and the blown up item can be recovered, but it also means that you have to get multiple spare items. Imagine doing that with those super rare items, it just takes forever. MapleStory has a lot of upgrading mechanics, which can be very overwhelming and requires you to pay attention and actually know what to aim for. I think it can somewhat be expected of a 20-year-old game to have a lot of systems, but also the developers haven't really tried to simplify things either. Improvements are made here and there, but gear upgrading can either feel amazing or like a total waste of time due to the random nature of success. In MapleStory, systems and gear get replaced very slowly, like over the course of years, so your progress doesn't feel invalid even after playing for a while, like with some other games where every week the new best item gets released. MapleStory also has various servers, one server where you can trade between other players and one where you cannot, and you have to get all your items yourself. In those servers where you can trade, there also is a thing called the Meso market, where players can buy mesos, the in-game currency, for real money, and then can use those mesos to purchase gear and items from other players, allowing them to skip a lot of progress. There also are a lot of cosmetic items for sale in the cash shop, which are often acquired through random boxes, just putting that warning out there. Overall though, I think MapleStory is in one of the best states it has ever been, with long overdue quality of life features being introduced constantly, and there always is something new on the horizon to look forward to. The developers do sometimes make very strange choices, but they can be pushed in the right direction by enough outcry from the player base. Example of what I mean by strange choices are, for example, with the Explorer class revamp last year. A new story was added that takes your character from level 1 to level 30, but this story was mandatory every time you made a different Explorer class. There are a lot of those classes, I think like 15 of them, so you had to go through the same story 15 times with no option to skip it. Also, each Explorer class uses a unique weapon. Without the right weapon, they can't use their skills, but because you're stuck in a story until level 30, you could not get a new weapon for your class or get any in-game currency because you're reading the story, so Maples have to transfer mesos from other characters or grind with their first job skills to get enough mesos to buy a weapon. Now these oversights got fixed later on, but it's such a weird and big oversight to have on a game that has been around for 20 years already, and these types of sometimes strange inconveniences seem to happen more often than not. Communication between the overseas teams and MapleStory Global NC is pretty rough as well, but sometimes changes being made that feel like they aren't made with the best interest for the players or the game in mind. With removal of meta-defining content that has been in the game already for years under the guise of balance, or the fixing of bugs which were in the game for so long that they were considered features by the players. It sometimes feels like Nexon either doesn't check up on their own game or doesn't know their own game very well, suddenly finding things unbalanced or broken even though they have been in the game for years. If MapleStory is in the best state it has ever been, the state of how the game is being published is probably in the worst it has ever been. With the constant removal of content and lack of communication, it sometimes can get scary for Maplers whenever a new update hits, because you're never certain what's going to be changed or, in quotation marks, fixed next. But overall though, this is a game I keep coming back to. I don't know, the grinding is so satisfying, the bossing is actually pretty fun. I was never a guy who liked bossing that much, but once you learn the mechanics, it actually is pretty fun. And of course the grinding is unmatched, the soundtrack is unmatched, all the classes are super exciting, super fun to play. And MapleStory being around for that long definitely shows that it's doing some things right. And that's all what I had for today's video. What do you think of MapleStory? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, special thanks to our members for making these videos possible. Special thanks to Niels de Coninck, Raar maar waar, Sebastian Hanoy, Jesus Rodriguez, Claudie Mora, Wiley, Riser Are BackSpaceOTI, Ziggy Deer, Historycanon, Saffronyx, Flidiot, Knifesu, Cloudfix, Sir Tito 655, Michael Manchaka, Rathius, Afterlord, Betrayal 1489, Silvio Nato, Striker Elk, Tidal 1 Pun, Victor Sundstrom, Mathias Simonsson, Mr. Anark, Brendon Games, The Passenger, Kani Wu, Max Bernhardt, Muka 1017, BNB King, Scotty Flies Fast, Gabriel Eck, Fecko, Vake Botnet, Dante Victory, Matinu Dev, Snack HBG, Only, Lord Vasil, Pats D. Kaiser, That Archie Guy, Louis Bento Brandao, Snufflepop, Tails Curspet, The Wolf Drake, Gaber Wolf, Pre-Big Bang, Best Guild Luna, Casual Volk, Quinn, Migu, and Mark Sette. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe and happy mapling.